good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Austin. I'll be our moderator for the June Town Hall, which is also going to serve as our 2021 legislative interview. Before I get started, I want to give a thank you to all involved for setting up this event. It's always great when we can hear from our elected officials, because the most important thing for our government is to be honest, humble with us, and of course to serve the public. And this is exactly what this type of forum does and gives us an opportunity for. Let's do a quick show of hands on the KEMA bill. If you voted to pass the KEMA bill, would you please raise your hand? Thank you. You guys had great answers. Just want to make sure we're all understood, where we all stand on the issues. Let's move to taxes. So, kind of my bread and butter, we had two really big tax bills in this legislative session. We had SB 50, which was a hodgepodge of sorts of income tax bills, as well as a little bit of sales tax. And I particularly like this one because 4 years ago, when I was chief economist at the Kansas Department of Revenue, I testified calculating the effects of President Trump's 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act to both the House and Senate Tax Committee. And I remember saying, yes, Kansas families and businesses are going to see, this amount of money coming from President Trump's actions, but because of state law, there's going to be a sizable portion of money going to the state government. And I believe the intention for this act was for families and businesses to get 100% of these type of relief. So if it could be done to move that state money back to the hands of Kansans, I think that would follow with the intent. And of course, the legislature acted, and every year, I think for the past 3 years, they tried to get this bill passed to make sure they get that lost wallet of tax funds back to you. And every year, the Governor Kelly vetoed, except this year. So that's a pretty big package that we got out, and I'd love to hear your opinions on this, but let's also talk about property taxes. Property taxes was another critical issue that got resolved this year. So often we find that in local areas at either city or county level, and I live in Lawrence, so I most certainly know this, local officials would raise the value of your home, but keep that mill rate the same. And so your taxes would go up, and then you'd go to your local official and say, hey, my taxes would go up, and they would respond, oh, well, we didn't touch your mill rate, nothing really happened. That's a lie, right? Your taxes did rise. And so I remember I kicked off a campaign with an op-ed talking about how we need to lower that mill rate whenever we see our home values rise up in order to keep those taxes that we pay level. So we got both of those bills out. So if you can, relatively briefly, because I would love to get to value them both, tell us how you voted on those income tax bills and property tax bills and why. We'll start with Representative Johnson.
Of course, we wanted clarity. We want people to understand. I remember last year when we were campaigning, Lance was talking to me about how one taxing entity in his area on a library board, they set their mill level. Nobody knew about it. The mill level that they brought in affected everybody's taxes. It was sneaky, well, not sneaky. They weren't trying to hide it, or were they? Okay. So this was a method in which we could require these taxing entities to let us know what it is they're doing. Now, I'm going to say, after going to the county commission working meeting here a couple of weeks ago, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because we put some challenges in to getting that done. But I need to know, because my home valuation, and that's based on comparative sales. And I can't believe my house is worth that, but maybe it is. So I'm selling my house. No, really, I sold my house this week. No, it's not in Wyandotte County, sorry. But yes, we supported that. I still think there is work to be done in the legislature in regards to how we value properties in a fair and safe manner. And I'm not sure what that is yet. I am still learning.
Well, I voted for both of them, obviously. Taxes was one of the things I ran on. Our taxes are completely out of control. I have 4 children. They're adults. I want them to stay in this area. I don't want them to have to move away because they can't afford to get a home because property taxes are too high, etc. So that was one of the things that I definitely was interested in. One of the other things that, all of us and everything, I'll explain this real quickly. If you throw an HB number at us and everything, we're not going to be able to tell you most likely what that bill was unless it was one of the big ones, because we heard 250, 300 of them while we were up there. So, but in one of the bills, one of the things that was very important in the taxes was that they, for people 65 and over, they were going to freeze their taxes for 2020 or 2021, whichever was the highest, or whichever was the lowest, I'm sorry, whichever was the lowest. And then it wouldn't go up from then on. That was one that I was very, very interested in, because I'm hearing from a lot of people, as their taxes keep going up and they're on a fixed income, that, it's got to stop somewhere. And this is one of those ways that can get done. And it has support. It was put into a bill, but I don't think it went through this year, but I do believe in everything that we'll get it through this next time. And, I will keep fighting and everything to try and bring our taxes down on whatever it is we can do it on, because we all need help right now.
Yeah, that's the number one issue that I ran on to begin with 3 years ago was taxes. I'm sure you all remember Debbie Deere down in the 40th, who just acted like a cheerleader in 2017 when the legislature overturned Governor Brownback's veto of the largest income tax increase in the Kansas history. So that's the reason I ran. It's still my number one priority. Lance talked about his kids having to move away because they can't afford to live here. Linda and I can't afford to live here. We keep raising our taxes. We're living on fixed incomes like many of you are, and I'm sorry, we just can't afford 10% increases in property taxes every year. There's just no way we can sustain that. So the property tax bill was very important. I think we can all agree it's not where it needs to be yet, but it's a start. We have 2 fine county commissioners here that have fought hard to reduce the mill levy to compensate for the high appraisals. They haven't been able to be totally successful in that, but I appreciate their help in trying to reduce those property taxes. The other one was the tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts that just never got back down to Kansas taxpayers. The governor wanted to keep all that extra money that she got from the federal government for herself and all of her little agenda. And so for 2 years, she kept that as in her bag of money. This year, we made a whole lot of progress on that because we've got a whole new legislature full of conservatives that are ready to return some of the taxpayers' money back to them. And so it's been a good year for both the taxes being returned to the taxpayers and also some work on the property taxes. But like I said, there's still work that has to be done there, and we're going to be working very carefully with the county commissioners trying to come up with a way to make this work. Thank you.
Oh, I voted for both of them enthusiastically. Representative Johnson talked about the study session that we had a couple weeks ago with the county commissioners, and it was a great conversation. And I echo what Representative French said. Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Stephen are 2 tax hawks in our county commission. I mean, they're the voice of fiscal conservatism in our county commission, but not everybody up there is as enthusiastic about dropping the mill levy as they are. And so there was a bit of a heated conversation. And, in addition to the folks up here on the stage now, our state senator decided to come, Democrat Jeff Pittman. And it was really interesting. You know, the meeting wasn't televised, and I wish it was, because if it had been televised, it really kind of peeled the veneer off of where conservatives stand versus where Democrats stand on taxes. You know, he got up there and wailed and moaned about how terrible the property tax bill is. Awful. There are so many terrible things in this property tax bill. And then somebody pointed out, Jeff, didn't you vote for it? Well, yeah, I voted for it, but you know, it's awful. It's awful. And the reason he voted for it is because he wants to get reelected, and he was hearing from all his constituents that it's out of control. The valuations keep going up, and the mill levies don't drop, and so the net effect is that our property taxes are going up every year. And it's, you know, I just told you on the Kansas Emergency Management Act that it's my belief that every decision that the government makes should be made by elected officials who are answerable to the people that they represent. And for years, the decision has been made by an assessor, a property value assessor, who's raising all our taxes. And so this reinserts the voice of the people through their elected county commissioners, city commissioners, school board members, because now the school board's under the same rule. It reinserts those voices, our voices, through those elected officials back into the process of determining our taxes. And if we don't like the decision they make, they'll be accountable to the voters at the ballot box, and we can change captains of the ship if we don't like the way they're steering it. But one other thing that he said on the way out, Senator Pittman said on the way out, that I wanted to take just a second with, was as he was on his way out, he said, "Yeah, and then they cut taxes for all those multinational corporations. So now we're going to have a big budget problem." I don't know a lot of multinational corporations that are taking the individual standard deduction on their income taxes. I don't know what planet this guy comes from. This tax cut is about returning the Trump tax cuts, the federal tax cuts, back to you. Because of a quirk in our tax law, if you itemize federal, you had to itemize state. And if you took the standard deduction federal, you had to take the standard deduction state. And when the federal standard deduction went up, it basically turned into a backdoor tax hike for you on your state taxes. All we did was allow families and those small businesses that are sole proprietorships and those small businesses that are filing to decouple them so they could get those tax cuts back. And you know, that's all about putting money in your pockets, but also putting money back in the pockets of the small business owners so they can rehire all these people that Governor Kelly put out of work with their shutdown. And frankly, I think that's why they didn't want it.
Thank you very much.
Why don't you just add something?
Sure, please.
What Pat just said there on the deductions, something that a lot of people don't know is that you can do your medical deductions on that. That's something that a lot of people don't realize. And you can itemize your medical deductions. Those of you that have things that you have to deal with and everything on a monthly basis, those things can be deducted. And you can put those on your taxes and stuff now. And I think it's going to be a great thing for a lot of people that are having to deal with the huge medical costs that people are having to deal with too.
Thank you. For a matter of transparency, let's talk about that income tax bill, SB 50. If you voted for it, please raise your hand. Okay? On the property tax bill, SB 13, if you voted for it, please raise your hand. Can we give a round of applause for that?